Hey there, I'm Jeff Elkins, and this is the Dialogue Doctor Podcast. Today on the podcast, I'm talking with author J.P. Rindfleisch IX about Steve Kaplan's book, The Hidden Tools of Comedy and How to Write Funny. Okay, let's kick off with the news. Start off with some announcements. It's time for the news. So we've got 3 conferences and 2 weekends that I want to tell you about. 3 and 2. So the first conference is happening on October 11th and 12th. That's this coming Saturday and Sunday. If you're listening to this when it's released, I will be speaking at From Brain to Bookshelf, which is the Maryland Writers Association conference. You do not have to be part of the Maryland Writers Association to come. But they are hosting it. So come and check that out. It is at the Baltimore Hilton of BWI, which is just south of Baltimore. It's going to be a blast. I'm doing 2 hours on Sunday. I'm taking everybody from zero to completed characters. So we're going to do the dialogue daisy. We're going to talk about the voice. We're going to do character growth stuff. We're going to do voice modulations. We're going to do all the things. So that is happening Saturday and Sunday. I will be there. I'll be walking around both days, but I'm speaking on Sunday. So I hope you can join us. And then the next conference is J.P. Rindfleisch IX, fabulous author, brilliant dialogue doctor coach, is speaking at Escaping the Plot Forest, which you can find at forest.plotsummit.com. This is an amazing conference put on by my friend Daniel David Wallace. It's fantastic. It's 45 experts. JP will be speaking on October 19th, and he's talking about how to plot cozy fantasy. So, which JP is an expert at. He's crushing it in the cozy fantasy world. So, you should totally listen to that. It's going to be great. It's the 18th and 19th. Go register for that conference again at forest.plotsummit.com. Tell them JP sent ya. So then the third conference in 2 weekends is the Alliance of Independent Authors Conference, is also happening October 18th and 19th. It is the Self-Publishing Advice Conference. And I'm speaking at that one. I'm talking about, that one's free, which is fun. It's totally free. I'm talking about, what am I talking about? Writing for the streaming generation. So it's about how to write to movies, how to write your books so they sound like movies, to the movie generation. It's a lot about pacing. It's a lot about like getting things moving fast. It's a lot about like making sure your scenes are tight, all that kind of stuff. So it's a fun talk. You should come and jump into that too. And you can find that at selfpublishingadvice.org/conference-2025, or just Google Self-Publishing Advice Conference 2025. Okay. I think that is all of the news. That's all the news, folks. I'm trying to think if I have any personal updates. I don't think I have any personal updates. I had a big writing week last week. I work a day job, got a big family. All day Saturday, I took my youngest, the 12-year-old. This is funny. Y'all will like this. I took my youngest, my wife and I were sitting around Saturday morning. Now, I have 5 kids. The oldest ones are all college. I've got one high school student left, and then I've got my 11-year-old. And so for the last 10 years, our Saturdays have been filled with soccer and different sporting events, like different, sports that my kids were doing. But my youngest kid, he's huge into dance. He's actually a very gifted dancer. And so Saturdays are pretty free. He's got 3 different dance classes during the week, but Saturdays are open. And it's a weird thing to us because we haven't had open Saturdays for a long time. And so we were sitting around this Saturday and we were like, what do we want to do today? So we took him out to a farm and, they have these, I don't know what everybody in the world has. In Maryland, where I live, there are places where you can pumpkin patches where you can go pick out your pumpkin in the pumpkin field to bring it home for Halloween. but there's usually like big events around that. So there was a corn maze that took us like 45 minutes to walk through, and there were slides he could go down, like these giant slides down this huge hill. And there was like human hamster wheels that he could run in, and there was a big like pit that was full of corn kernels that is kind of like a ball pit, but it's got corn kernels in it. And there's like a ninja ropes course, like just all this. There's all these like kids things to do, and you drink apple cider, and they have pig races and goat races. It was fantastic. But my wife and I were laughing because we didn't bring no water. We didn't bring any backpack with us. We just showed up, and we're walking around. I'm like, we are like amateur parents again. What is happening? We've gotten the last kid, and we've forgotten all of the skills that we learned with the other four. Anyway, I thought it was really funny. So that was my weekend. But this week I did have a huge writing weekend. I crushed out like 25,000 words, I think was my final total. JP and I are at the end of writing season 2 of Nationally Recently Deceased Services, which is it's an amazing book, much better than season 1, which is crazy to say because I thought season 1 was really fun, but I like season 2 way better. So it's coming out probably in March of this coming year, but it's or next year in 2026. But we're wrapping up the first draft. So yeah, I was, when I get to the end of a book, I just kind of like go full throttle, and I just like want to race to the end. Once I get to that third act, I'm on a run. So yeah, I just kept going this week. It was great. I got a ton of words done. Anyway, so that's my personal update, and that's enough about me. Let's get into the conversation with the amazing JP Rindfleisch the Ninth. Okay, I hit record, and I am on with JP Rindfleisch the Ninth, and this is a joint with JP.
Da, da, da.
Again, I still wish that I had a like bong sound, but things that
That's on you.
added to the to-do list. JP, how are you doing? You and I just talked, so it feels weird to ask you for an update, but everybody else
Uh,
listening doesn't have an update. How are you doing?
I'm
How's life?
good. I'm
Life
good.
is
Life is
as a
good.
full-time author.
It's something, that's for sure. This week I just finished a manuscript that was originally a short story that became a novella, that became a novel.
Nice.
Oops. Oops, I made a
Whoopsie.
novel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is off to the editor. I don't really have like a date when it will come, but I am thinking of doing like a pseudo Kickstarter in a way, or like a pre-order on my website, and
Yeah.
then based off of numbers getting artwork for it, because it is in
Nice.
the like Mosswood Apothecary universe. So I'm not going to have a plan for any of the fancy artworks. And then, if we hit certain goals, we'll add in like bits and pieces so that it resembles a Mosswood Apothecary book.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So and now I'm diving into Mandrake Manor world, and I've got a short story that I'm working on and having a lot of fun with because I forgot how snarky the Mandrake Manor world was.
Yeah,
And so I just get to swear all the time, and it's great.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
and then I'm working on book 2. It has a lot of like that nerds vibe, so I'm
Nice.
getting in that fun headspace. So
Very cool.
how about you?
That's great. Writing wise, I am still querying a screenplay. I am on 189 query letters I've
Ooh,
sent out. Gotten 2 responses.
yeah,
Um, yeah, my other writing partner, Sean, who writes screenplays with me, and I are going to talk about that next week. We're both a little nervous that the political theme of the screenplay may be hurting it. So I might be shifting to query something else or write something else. We'll see. And I'm like 45% of the way through the screenplay I'm writing it for this quarter because I said I was going to write a screenplay a quarter. So
yeah,
I'm moving. It's good. Um, yeah, so that's fine. We're doing that. I'm doing that. And then I'm like grooving on nerds right now.
yeah, yeah.
We're
You are.
almost, yeah, I'm almost done with the first draft of season 2.
Yeah,
I got a bug in my ass
yeah,
last week, and I started
yeah. You
cranking out
did.
like 4,000 words a night.
Yeah, you're like, oh, here's 7 chapters out of nowhere.
Yeah, you were like, "Hey, we owe our draft." I had like 14 chapters left to draft, and you were like, "Hey, we owe this to you." the editor in October. I was like, oh shit. So
Yeah,
I
that's
just
fine.
I just sat down and started going. Yeah, and I think there's actually I was looking at the outline today. I think I have 5 chapters left to write. There's like 7 left in the outline, but some
Yeah,
of them are going to be
some of them
condensed.
go. Yeah,
Well, they don't go. It's just like what we thought when we made the outline was going to be a bigger deal than it is now.
yeah,
It's like I
yeah.
don't actually need a chapter for
No,
that.
it's really fun.
Yeah. So it's good. It's a lot of
Yeah,
fun. Um,
and I got the covers. We've been talking about those.
yeah,
And they look gorgeous.
they
Just
do.
saying, it's like adult goosebumps.
They do.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the I think for those listening, head over to the Kickstarter and hit notify me on launch. We're not going to launch it in October. We're going to push that back a little bit longer, but it'll be definitely worth it.
Yeah. Because we're gonna do cool artwork and get stuff in it. We just need more time.
Yeah.
Better to make it quality than to launch it quickly. So
Yeah, and like
I'm
that's the whole thing with Kickstarter. You got to make everything pretty. You got to make sure you have everything ready and available. So,
Yeah, and I want to put out a good quality product. I think, I spent the first 8 years of my writing career writing fiction that I was like minimum viable product to get it on the shelf. And I'd
yeah.
I'd rather actually like now I'm at a phase where I'd rather like spend the time to make it worth it than
Yeah.
to rush it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll
Um
have fancy linen foil hardcovers.
yeah, those will be nice. I will say it's speed writing these chapters. I'm not really speed writing, but like
You
sitting
kind
down
of
and
are.
actually
It's
like
fine.
pushing hard to write things. It's nice to remember that I can do that
Yeah.
because I haven't done it for a while. So like being like, oh yeah, I do have this muscle. I can flex this thing when I need to and just crank crap out. And so
Yeah.
yeah, and it's good. It made me cry. One of the chapters made me cry. So that's always,
Great.
when you make yourself
Great.
cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sending me that. That'd be great.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
to
yeah. It's the one I kill a character in. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. It's fine.
I give him the best like ending line of any character I think I've ever written because I've killed a lot of characters,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
always try to give him the like fantastic ending line. But because he's a ghost, because we deal with ghosts, he had a great ending line. It was, "Hey, when you guys come to the other side, first round's on me," and then you're like, I was like, yeah, yeah. Anyway, oh, it was
Love it.
good. Yeah, and then his brother dies in grief, so that's
Great.
like, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's not when I say rush crap out, I'm not writing crap. I actually really like what I'm writing. I'm just writing hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, anything else we need to any other updates we need to do? Anything else you want to
I don't think so.
update on?
Based off
Okay.
of when this comes out now.
Yeah, it'll be, I don't know. I don't know. It could be next week. It could be 4 weeks. I have no
Life
idea.
is a mystery.
Life is a mystery.
Oh,
Um,
I will say, I just started watching. This has nothing to do with life updates, except it kind of does. I just started watching Wayward on
my
Netflix.
wife just watched that and she's like, you have to watch it. I have it.
I love Toni Collette, like
Yeah.
literally anything
She's
she's
amazing.
in.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And then Mae Martin is one of the main actors in it.
Okay.
So good.
Yeah. Yeah. I did. Was it Mae Martin? I think I queried her agents at one point and was like, hey, she'd be great for a part in this screenplay I wrote. And they were like, when you have money, write us back. Damn it.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway. Fair. Fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but yeah, I can't think of anything else. I think that's everything. Yeah. Okay. Let's get into. Sorry, I was trying to think if there's anything dialogue doctory we have to update on, but like
We're in the dash.
we're in the dash. We're in the dash.
Woo.
I'm speaking at a conference October 11th and 12th in person in Maryland, but if you're not in person in Maryland, um, and who knows, this may come out after October 11th
Yeah.
and 12th. So anyway, all right, that's enough of that. Okay, so book for today. Um,
Yes.
I was going to make you talk about classic Southern Gothic novels by Flannery O'Connor
Great.
because I try to pick topics that I'm the only one who will find interesting.
Great. Good.
Um,
Better Home
so
and Garden
that's right.
series. Yeah.
So I've
Cool.
decided not to do that to you.
Okay. Yeah.
You're welcome.
This is just a yet. That was just you're just testing the waters, I know. But you're gonna do it in the future. It's fine,
No,
whatever.
because I'm writing comedy hard and I'm struggling there, like, behind the scenes. And you're writing Mouse with Apothecary, which is also a form of comedy. But so Nerds is comedic. And I'm wondering at times, like, what makes this funny and what doesn't make this funny. So in my free time with my full-time day job and my 5 children and the dialogue doctor and everything else I do, I decided to read a book this week. So I read The Hidden Tools of Comedy, The Serious Business of Being Funny by Steve Kaplan. Have you ever read this book?
Uh, I don't think so.
Yes. Excellent. I like it when we talk about books that we both haven't read. So it was great. I really
Yeah.
liked it. Yeah, I was a big fan. So we'll talk through the book, and I want to get your responses to everything. I don't agree with everything he said, but I think it's a fascinating conversation about what is funny and what makes something comedic. Um, I'm not going to go into his bio like I usually do when we do a book because his bio is like he was a screenplay writer, he wrote a ton of crap, and then he wrote this book and now he teaches about comedy. That's his like
Okay.
done. That's his
I
bio.
mean, you did go into
Um,
his bio. It was just short.
yeah, it was just short.
Yeah.
That's I mean, you
Yeah.
can go read all of these like I taught at HBO, I taught at this, it's like it's fine. This book came out in 2013.
Hmm.
Um, and the book breaks into 3 sections. We have theory, tools, and frequently asked questions. So I'm going to skip the frequently asked questions. You can do that on your own. I'm going to combine the theory into I'm not going to go chapter by chapter because the chapter breaks are a little silly in my opinion. So I'm just going to do like, we'll just talk theory, but then I am going to go through all 7 tools. Um, and we can, yeah. So let's do theory first. I won't talk about what we're going to do with the tools till we get to the tools. Okay. Sound good?
Sure. Yes.
You're like, you just barraged me with words.
I'm
And
I'm
I don't even know
prepared.
what they mean. Yeah, this is every time I bring the book, this is what happens. Um, okay, so in the theory, he's got several, and again, his chapters are arranged in fascinating ways. They're actually very readable and very entertaining, but I just want us to get to the core of what he's talking about. So I'm going to take all 4 theory chapters and kind of put them together and like, hey, this is what he's talking about. So his initial premise is that funny is subjective. If it makes you laugh, it's funny.
Hmm.
And different people laugh at different things.
Yeah.
And he says, but comedy is not subjective. And so for him, comedy is a type of writing that is intended to elicit empathetic emotions from the consumer of the story. And this is in juxtaposition to drama. So for him, there's 2 types. There's comedy and drama. And comedy is funny, he said, but the reason it's funny is because of the empathy it elicits, not because it makes us laugh. What makes us laugh is subjective, but comedy is always attempts to be funny. So is that clear as like a cup full of mud?
I see his point of view in this, and I like that point of view. And then I think of comedians who often may think they're doing comedy, but they're doing something to be funny, but only to a group of people. And like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
And
I'm
he's going to
thinking
get
of,
into that. He gets into
yeah,
that a lot. Yeah.
yeah, that's like, I see what he's laying down. I think
Hmm.
I'm prepared for it. I'm ready.
And he's also like, just because it makes you laugh doesn't mean it's comedy.
Right,
Comedy has an intention behind it. And like
right.
he's like, we laugh at things all the time that aren't comedy. Like somebody falls down and I giggle. It's not comedy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so he talks he has this section which I thought was interesting because I definitely feel this some as somebody who has taken a long time to just confess to myself that I am in essence a comic writer because all of my books have been that way, whether I want them to or not. I'm writing a serious book about church politics, and here comes sexy Tony. So there's he says starts off talking about how for some reason in society, drama gets more value than comedy does. And so he's got some interesting quotes here. He said, Woody Allen, for example, said, uh, comedy writers are the writers that have to sit at the children's table. Or he said, he talks about how Aristotle wrote an entire book on the art of drama, and in it he has one sentence about comedy. Ludicrous yet painless, because comedy is based on people who are lower than the rest of us. Which he's going to spend the rest of the time refuting, but these are like his like the call to action for him to write this book of comedy.
Right.
Or he said, Freud said, comedy is an elaborate defense mechanism protecting you from pain. So it's like, you write comedy because you can't handle the real world. So he's kind of, Kaplan's acting against those, and he says, comedy is actually the art of telling the truth about what it is to be human.
Yeah.
And he says the contrast between comedy and drama, he says in drama, characters are logical and appropriate. They do things that are logical and appropriate. He said, and the characters are typically better than us in some way. They have special knowledge, special skills, or he's like in TV, they just look better than the rest of us do. And he said, and the characters have flaws, but those flaws are tragic and heartwarming. Like the beautiful person who's incredibly smart has cancer. And you're just like, oh, that's hard for that person. He said the point of drama is to help us dream about what could be and what we can be. So drama uplifts and says like, hey, here's what's possible. He says in contrast, comedy makes sense of who we are. He's like, comedy loves humanity without forgiving it by accepting the truth of uh, that we are all flawed. And he said that's part of the human condition is to be knocked down and get back up. And so comedy is a way of saying like, hey, me too. I also get knocked down
Yeah.
and get back up. And for him, drama is about dreaming and comedy is about hope.
Okay.
How do you feel about those distinctions?
I can see that. I'm doing all I can to like connect and relate these things. And I can see it. Like it seems like in drama, you have usually like a character you can root for who resembles you, doesn't really have a absurdity about them other than they may have external absurdity
Mhm.
circumstances. Like cancer is something that's more external, that's accepted as an internal thing that happens to you, or an event. Whereas like comedy sometimes utilizes the absurd to point things out, to sort of educate you, or make you question or make you see
hmm
an
That's an
answer.
interesting observation. And we'll get into that in the tools. A lot of how he plays this out comes out in the tools.
Okay.
So we'll get into that in the tools. And you're nailing what he talks about. I think he wouldn't call it absurdity. Um, he talks about it as straight and wavy lines. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll get there. Just put a pin in that. The examples he uses for like, it's interesting because he's a screenwriter and an acting teacher. So a lot of his examples come from screenwriting. But like he says, for example, like you watch a soap opera and the characters there are making logical decisions that like make sense to you and everybody, and it's the world and the like unfair circumstances around them that create the drive and create the emotional pull. It's like, man, this cop is actually a really good cop and is really great at being a cop, but the world has put this cop in a terrible place, and now the cop has to like make, you know, decisions about how to be a great cop in this terrible place. Whereas comedy is like, this is a normal dude, and this normal
Yeah.
dude is having to get through in unusual circumstances with no skills or ability or
Yeah.
ability. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gives us an equation, which, okay, I got to say, this chapter pissed me off because it's not an
Good.
equation. Because I was like, X plus Y equals is an equation to me. And he's like, here's the comedic equation. And I'm
Right.
like, but there's no math. Anyway,
Right.
so That's just my own personal venting. So his comedic equation is an ordinary person struggling against insurmountable odds without many of the required skills and tools with which to win, yet never giving up hope.
Yeah.
That is comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fool's journey.
The Fool's Journey. And it's that idea that with comedy, we can relate and we can be like, I understand what it's like to have flaws. I understand what it's like to be unprepared for the things of life. And if I were thrown into these circumstances, I might do things differently than this person is, but I'm with them. I'm in this with them. Which for him, do we talk about that now? We can get into that. I also want to put in a pin into the idea that like sometimes people are making fun of other people.
Yeah.
That kind of falls outside of his definition of comedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Because
not
it's like a
comedy for him.
yeah, it's like a punching down and it makes some group happy or some group laugh, but it isn't comedy.
Yeah, the key to being comedy, like people might find it funny, but the key to being comedy is that the focus is on relating to the person in struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay. Any thoughts about Mr. Kaplan's theory on comedy?
I see it. I immediately think of the show. If you need to bleep, you can, but Kevin can go fuck himself
Yeah, I don't believe. What are you
because
talking about? I don't edit anything.
did you see that movie? Did you see that show?
No, uh-uh.
No. I mean, so the concept behind the show is that the husband is a bumbling idiot, and whenever he is around, everyone seems to absolutely love him. Everyone's
Mm,
having a good time, but we sit in the wife's perspective, and whenever she is alone, she recognizes that like she feels alone. She realizes her husband is like a piece of
mm,
trash and
yeah.
is like super misogynistic. But the way the show presents is that every time he's on screen, it becomes a sitcom comedy. The lens changes,
Hmm.
it changes into a set design that's like a laugh track audience, the
Yeah.
colors, and then when it's her, it's a close-up camera with a blue tint and like it's a very different style. It's really pretty visually, but it's interesting because like I can see the elements that were the comedy bits, and it's not just the moments that it's the sitcom because that feeds into it because we sit with her. But that's what makes me think of immediately is like watching even one piece of work flip between the two.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example because it contains all of the things he talks about. When we get into the tools, he's going to talk about how you define characters, perspective, framing, all of that stuff. And it really is a good synopsis of it. I think when I'm reading the book, I think the book's clearly influenced by comedies like modern sitcoms like Friends and Seinfeld and The Office and
Yeah.
Parks and Rec. Like it's very his understanding of comedy is very like falls into that. But I also think like I'm reading him. He's of my age. I actually think he's older than me. I think he's in his 50s. I didn't look it up, but just from his references, I think he's probably in his 50s. It also reminds me of like how would you define the comedy of like a Rodney Dangerfield movie, like from the 80s, like that kind of comedy. Um, and it is that like this is a person with no skills thrown into an impossible situation. Um, yeah. Okay, we want to move on to the tools.
Let's do it.
Okay, there are eight tools, seven, seven, eight tools. And then the eighth tool has six rules.
Oh, okay, cool. So that makes sense.
So here's what I want to do. I want to read a tool. I want to see if we can think of examples of the tool, like, and challenge the tool if we can.
Okay,
And then I'd also like us to kind of like, I thought it might be, if you're up for it, to process like, how are we doing with nerds in this tool?
great.
Are you up for that?
Why not?
Because that's why I read the book. I was like, how am I doing making this funny? Because,
Yeah.
I bend towards sad. So I was like, how's the funny going?
Yeah.
I don't like the face you just made when I said that. All right, tool number one.
Winning is tool number one. So in a comedy, characters must do whatever they have to do to win.
Yeah.
And winning is made funny when the characters conflict, when the characters have conflicting desires. So he talks about this example he does in writing classes where he calls the three lawyers. And he's like, he puts three people on stage and he's like, all three of you are lawyers who are 5 minutes late to the most important case of your life. Get to that case and go. And he says, he talks about how, like, when he puts drama actors on the stage, they're like, that's not enough information. What is my, deep seated desires? What's my secondary plot? What's all this, like, stuff? He said, when he puts comedy, when he puts comedians on the stage, several of them will just immediately run out of the room.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, yeah, I need to win. I got to get to
Yeah.
this thing. I'm just going to run out of the room. He says, and it's funny the first time, but then it's not funny after that because it's unexpected. And you're like, oh, this is how, but he says, so the way you make it funny is you put them all out, you tell them their objective, and you say, we're going to start in 2 minutes. And you put them all out of the room, you bring them in one at a time, and you tell the first one, uh, you want to leave, but you don't want to be the first one to leave. So your desire is to not be the first. You got to get out of here, but you don't want to be the first one to leave. And he
Yeah.
tells the next one, you're obsessed with the number two. And everything you do is in twos. You're OCD with number two. You have to be the second person to leave.
Yeah.
And then he tells the third one, no matter what, you don't trust the other two. So no matter what, you're going to make sure the last one out the door. And then he brings them all three back in and he says, all right, go. And so none of them want to leave first. And that's where it becomes funny because then
Yeah.
they're all trying to win, but they're all trying to win in a way that is conflicting with the others. And it,
Yeah.
and it becomes, yeah, entertaining. Um, is there another note on that? Yeah, so no, I think I covered it all. Um, yeah. Yeah, that's it. So what do you think? Examples? How do we do with nerds with our characters wanting to win?
Examples. It truly, like, I don't have an example off the top of my head, but it does feel like, those sorts of challenges that you see characters put up against and they don't have all of the information that they
Yeah.
need. And so it just becomes inherently funny because, like, they don't know if other people are competing against or if they're going to be the first ones there. And I can see it almost like how you would do it in a dramatic setting is like the external circumstances, but like that person is just driven to get to the end of it. Whereas in like a comedy setting, that person is driven to get to the end of it, but like they will do it at any means necessary, and like
Hmm.
it's less of a danger, but it's more like a fool errand almost. Like you're almost inherently going to fail.
Yeah.
Um,
I think a
and
lot
it
of
makes
Jake Peralta in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's like the
yeah,
prototype for winning for this. He
yeah,
wants to win at any cost. He'll even like destroy the case he's working on
yeah. And
if it
like
lets him if it lets him win. Yeah.
I would say the majority of the ghost hunting cases, this is what happens in nerds. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like someone will get caught up in a weird ghost web or they're racing to get to it and then they get stuck, and so then it becomes a comedic moment of, well, how the hell did you get stuck? Well, I don't know, kill the ghost.
Yeah.
Everyone's there to get the ghost
And
and no one has the answers to get there at the end.
yeah, they're all lost. I do think our funniest scenes, like I was thinking about this a lot with this tool. I think our funniest scenes come when one of the ghost hunters has a side quest that is the most important quest to them.
Yeah.
So like I think the funniest moment in season two, which we haven't published yet, is when one of our characters falls in love with a mop.
Yeah.
And
Stupid.
because while the other characters on the team are really trying to solve the actual problem, he's just kind of looking for love and meaning. And
Yeah.
like his mission is clearly to find love and meaning. That's what his mission is. So much so that he'll do it with a mop. And it's really funny. Like it's a funny moment.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so that I think I saw the like, oh yeah, when I see how this works. And I think some of our duller chapters ones like in season one that I wish we could go back and rewrite are when everybody in the scene is actually focused on the same mission.
Yeah, yeah.
It starts to
And
feel
like,
more like a thriller.
right, and this comes
Yeah.
back to my like level of absurdity or level of strange. And I
Hmm.
think that that becomes real to me, that's really relevant to writing like or trying to write comedy is like how can you make it just a level more than the norm? Um,
Yeah.
and having like larger than life characters that are just not being silly intentionally, but it's just part of their character.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's funny.
And he does talk about that. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but he does talk about how their definition of winning has to be aligned with who they are.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has to be like that. No, this is what this character would want. Yeah.
Yeah. Because yeah, like and you're right. If it's just everyone go capture this ghost and there's no like if it's a straight line to it, that's where it becomes more drama slash non-comedy slash potentially
Yeah.
boring. But when it has a deviation from that, or when people have to approach it from a different angle because they have their own side desire,
Hmm.
that's when it becomes important, and that's when it becomes comedy.
Yeah, and I think the episode of Nerds I think of that I wish we could go back and redo is we have an episode where they're all in the basement of a school and they all get kidnapped by the same ghost and he's like holding them all hostage. And they are all focused on getting out of being kidnapped, and so it takes on a drama feel. And part of me is like, man, that scene would have been funnier if one of them was like, because the ghost is making them write things on a chalkboard.
Yeah,
And like it would have been funnier if one of them was really obsessed with like getting their penmanship down appropriately. Like that would be
right,
like, yeah.
right.
But we didn't think of it at the time. But like
No,
that's, I think about scenes like that. I'm like, yeah, that's why it feels more drama serious because all of the characters are very intensely focused on the same.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, okay, tool number two is non-hero. We've talked about this a little bit already. He says the key to comedy is ordinary people without skills. The problems don't even have to be hard. The character just doesn't have the skills to solve them. And so he contrasts like, you know, um, Tropic Thunder, actors stuck in a forest, in a hostile forest. They have no skills to be in the forest. Whereas in Predator, you know, mercenaries stuck in a hostile forest, they have intense skills to be in the forest. So
right.
one becomes a comedy, one becomes a drama because the characters are skilled. Or he's like, you know, the Die Hard movies tend to be dramas, he talks about, because Jack McClane, especially as the movies go on, has more and more skills. So
Yeah,
they stop being funny and they start just being like action movies.
yeah,
And whereas the first one was kind of funny because he's just a normal cop stuck in this absurd thing that he doesn't actually have the skills to get out of. So it
yeah,
becomes humorous. Um, Interesting thing about this is he said, the knowledge that you don't have the skills is a skill.
yeah,
So if the character is aware that they don't have the ability to solve the problem, it's not funny anymore. They have to think they can solve the problem and be unaware of the fact that they don't have the ability to solve the problem. Yeah. Thoughts on the non-hero?
uh so because we write federal ghost hunters who are supposed to be skilled in ghost hunting. I think the this and I think Brooklyn Nine-Nine does this well, where everyone might be skilled to a level to doing their job, but they're missing something. And
Yeah.
that something then makes them unskilled. Buck, extremely intelligent, veteran, wants to retire, weak body.
Hmm.
You know, that sort of makes him unskilled because he's like, not this shit again. I'm not
Yeah.
here to chase. You know, that makes it funny.
And I do
Ethan,
find we write scenes for him that are highly physical.
yeah,
Because I was
yeah,
thinking about this, I was like, why do we like we have this super trained agent? What we're doing is we're like, oh, the super athletic agent, she just has to go talk to people. The super
yep,
trained agent that's like
yep,
but really old, he has to like run around. Like,
yep.
yeah,
And the super athletic agent, she is not personable. She
No.
carries a machete in her car,
Yeah,
you know?
but she has to go talk to people, and they're both seem to be unaware that they can't do what they're
Yeah.
because the natural solution would be like, well, just go call Buck and have him do this one. And it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
she's unaware of the fact that she's ill-equipped to do this
Yeah.
thing.
And like then we got the stoner who just is kind of a loner. He's
Yeah,
very intelligent and he can do his job very well, but he doesn't work well with anybody.
yeah, he doesn't play well with
And
others.
he has Bob.
Yeah, and most of the time, we put him in circumstances where it demands that he play well with others,
Yeah,
and
and
he
he
just
does not.
refuses. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And then of course we have Ethan Greenhorn doesn't know anything anyway.
doesn't know
So
anything. Yeah, we are losing. As we were writing, I realized I was trying to figure out as we were writing, like, what was our obsession, maybe my obsession, with getting Trevor, because we had a social media intern that we forced into being an agent.
yeah,
I think internally I was really craving the green
yeah,
because
yeah.
Ethan's not really greenhorning. After season one,
Yep.
he's got other problems,
He's a
but
greenhorn at something else.
he's a greenhorn at something else. But he's got his nerds agent down, and I think I was really longing for when we put Trevor in. I think we were both probably longing for that. We need the rookie
Yeah,
status to make it funny. We need the guy who like is terrified about what's going on.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, any other thoughts on the non-hero?
I think it makes total sense because I think that like the first thought I had was, well, wait a minute, we have agents who are doing the job, but it's because they're broken. They miss a piece that they don't understand they miss.
Yeah, and I think it's also why I think comedies, as they progress, tend to escalate
Yeah,
because as your characters gain more skill and ability, you have to make the circumstances bigger to make them unable to do their jobs. So like I think about like The Office. The Office starts with like Michael Scott initially is just having weird conferences with his office, but then like as this continues, then he's like dealing with corporate. And then he's not just dealing with corporate, he's dealing with like buyouts. And then he's not just dealing with buyouts, he's dealing with like, so you have to keep escalating to keep them incapable of
yeah,
doing their thing. Yeah.
yeah. That makes a ton of sense.
Okay, the next one is my least favorite tool. It's called metaphorical relationships. And I will say he blows through this chapter really
Great.
fast. So it's
I don't think
so
he likes it either.
he does it. Well, it's one of those things of like he has to say it to set up the next things he's gonna do. But so we'll just hit this one quickly. The idea around metaphorical relationships is that the character has a perspective on what's happening, and it's often different than what's actually happening. And you need to understand that the character sees the world differently. So he talks about the odd couple and how you have a very messy, kind of wacky guy living with a very serious clothes guy. And you're like, why would these two ever live together for more than a month? And
Yeah,
it's because they see each other as like their spouse. This
yeah,
is my
yeah.
so
Dharma and Greg.
yeah. So the metaphor is where they believe they're locked into this thing is they are like a spouse to each other. They can't leave. And
Yeah,
because that's their perspective, it allows the writer to create circumstances that normal people would be like, I gotta get another roommate. Right. Like
yeah,
so, and it's that like building of a framework that is the metaphor. So and it has to be logical to the character, but it explains how the character understands the world. He talks about Phoebe and friends in this chapter, in that for Phoebe, her framing of the world, everything is positive.
yep,
So it doesn't matter what happens, Phoebe sees it as positive.
yep.
Even though most people would be like, man, this really sucks. It's hard to get Phoebe to say that because she's framed the world in this way. Um, but that kind of sets up the next two. So the next two are 4 and 5, and I'm putting them together because I think they're the same. 4 is positive action, and 5 is active emotion. And so the idea is that once you understand the character's framework for positive action, everything the character does, the character has to believe will work.
Yeah,
Not in a drama. In a drama, the character can do whatever the hell they want and be like, oh, I'm going to do this, even though it might not work. I'm just going to try it. In a comedy, everything the character does, they have to believe will work. And it doesn't have to be the right thing. It just has to be what the character believes is the right thing to do. Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
I think that makes sense. because you're it's it's almost like you're diminishing the choice by making them think that they're always making the right one and having the consequence have a heavier weight to it. Whereas, based off of how you're describing it, the decision of the choice in a drama has more weight, more time to process, more, I this one is not a great choice, but it's the best one I can make,
Yeah. Or
like
I
it's what
might
it feels
try
like.
these three things. I don't think one and two are going to happen, but I'll give them a shot. That's
Right.
not comedy logic. Comedy logic is, no, this thing that I'm doing right now, this is going to work. This is
Yeah.
going to be the best thing.
And
Yeah.
then it's dealing with the consequence of what you just did.
Yeah, the nonsense fallout after. And it's I actually think we do a good job with this with nerds. The characters are very earnest. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're going to do this thing and it's going to work. Or if they're refusing to do something, their refusal to do something is very in line with who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, no, I'm choosing not to do that. And that I fully believe that not doing that thing is the right choice. Um, number five is active emotion. So the idea behind active emotion is that the character needs to be passionate about these choices they're making. They can't be blasé about them, or if they're blasé, they need to be blasé all the way. Like, but they have to be actively emotionally engaged in what's going on. Um, he uses Seinfeld a lot as a reference here, and I think his best example of this one comes from Seinfeld, where he talks about like their reactions to disappointment is always feels a little over the top. They're always like, "What just happened?" And it's that like, but you get caught up because the decisions they're making, because you understand that they have a framework, and because the decisions they're making are they truly believe are going to work. When the decision doesn't work, they're really upset about it. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. Any thoughts about that?
I think that furthers the idea that we sit more in consequence with comedy than, because we deal with more fallout, more emotional processing,
Hmm.
it sounds like to me. Whereas like in a drama, or at least like in more of that thriller-esque style, it's very go go go. Like there is a consequence, but then you're on to the next action.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next one is the big one. And we're going to take all the pins out that we've put in this next one. So I want to recap real quick before we get there. Um, the equation is an ordinary person against insurmountable odds without many of the required skills and tools with which to win. Um, but yet never giving up hope. We've talked about how like winning has to be a big part of that. We talked about how they have to be a non-hero. They have a worldview that frames their actions. Those actions they believe will work, and they are passionate about them working or not working. So then he gets this thing where he calls straight lines or wavy lines. And he's contrasting this with the idea that there's a straight character and an absurd character. And he says a misunderstanding about comedy is that you have a normal person looking at wacky people going, aren't they wacky? He's like, that's not comedy, that's making fun of people.
Yeah.
And he says, and it's often, it might be funny to some, to like a small segment of people. It is rarely universally funny
Yeah.
because what you're doing is pointing at somebody going, isn't that person funny? And in essence, it feels mean. And he's like, so this isn't true comedy. This is just you being able to make people laugh at something that you find funny. He says, instead of thinking of like the straight man and the silly character, we should think about the straight line and the wavy line. And for him, this is all about perspective. So the straight line means one of the characters has blinders on and doesn't see the problem. And then the wavy line is the other character sees the problem but has no ability to solve it. So he reads the entire as part of the book. He transcribes Who's on First by Abbott and Costello.
Oh, great. Good.
Yeah. So I'm going to read the whole thing to you now. I'm
Oh,
just
even
kidding.
better. I'm so excited. I love that.
I love it. I've never heard it before.
Great.
It's my first
This is
time
brand
hearing it.
new. Who?
Yeah.
What?
I was like, are you going to do the whole thing? I'm like, you are. You're going to do the whole thing.
Good.
You're going to
Great.
keep doing it. And then I was like, wait, am I the wavy line? So anyway,
Am I the problem?
I'm like, am I the one that sees it and has no power to stop you from doing it? So who's on first? Because I think it's actually a really good example that helped me understand this. Abbott has the knowledge. He understands the names are who, what, I don't know, today, tomorrow. He understands that the characters have all these nicknames, but he has blinders on. He doesn't see that that's a problem.
Yeah.
Costello has no knowledge, but sees that that there is something wrong. He's asking who is playing first base, and Abbott keeps going, yes, who is on first? And so that's where it becomes funny. One character has knowledge, doesn't see the problem. The other character has no ability to solve it, but sees the problem. So
Yeah.
he talks about how this is the show that this is most relevant in is Seinfeld, where you can see it in its clearest. And he talks about how he likes using Seinfeld as an example in his classes because Seinfeld, the who has the wavy perspective and who has the straight perspective is constantly changing. At some points, Jerry will be the straight character. He's saying things that there's a major problem with, and he doesn't see it. And George is the one who's like, I see the problem, but I can't get you to fix it. And then
Hmm.
sometimes it's reversed. George is the one who's saying something that's very like he used it as an example of an episode I remember, which was George is watching TV, he's watching Jeopardy, and he keeps getting all the answers right.
Yeah.
And Jerry's looking at him like, what is happening that you, this dummy, can answer every question on Jeopardy? And Jerry can't figure it out. And George doesn't understand that him answering every question on Jeopardy is a problem. And it's funny. Um, the key is the vehicle character when we're writing a novel or the perspective character when you're in a screenplay that has to be the wavy line. The vehicle character has to be the one who's like, I see it and I can't fix it. I don't have the tools to fix it. So that the non-hero has to be the wavy line. And that allows you, if you're switching perspectives, it allows you to have different wavy lines, but that has to be, and that keeps us, what that does is keeps us laughing at the circumstances and at the moment and never at the character themselves. So we're never
Yeah.
making fun of the character. We're always like, oh my gosh, I feel your pain. This is the worst.
Yeah.
Um, all right. How do you feel about that?
So the main vehicle is the wavy line, which is Costello, which means that they are missing a piece of information and they like the world isn't clear. That makes total sense. I
Yeah.
think that's like Ethan in Nerds in season 1 is the wavy line because he's brought into an
Hmm.
entirely new situation, and everyone else has these neuroses more or less of their specific thing that they know,
Yeah.
and they just don't understand that he doesn't understand. And I like that because that makes way more sense than, making fun of XYZ person. And
Yeah. And
yeah.
there's a thing. Well, the reason we confuse it with having a straight man and comedic characters is when you only have a single POV, you're like, oh, this is a normal guy amongst wacky people. But
Yeah.
that's not what's happening there.
Yeah.
It's a non-hero who can't solve the problem with characters that don't know there's a problem. So like I think about
Right.
like the Muppets, like Kermit is often seen as the straight man in the Muppets around all these wacky people, but it's not that Kermit is necessarily normal or straight. It's just that he's the one that's trying to like put on a show. And he can't understand why these other characters keep wrecking the show. He's like, don't you
Right.
understand that we're trying? Why don't you understand we're putting on a show? And all the other characters are like, blowing stuff up in the back. And so it's like this, that's what makes it funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I like using this to make the argument that like you don't put a normal palatable character against wacky and odd characters to point out the wacky and odd. You
Yeah.
put someone who is flawed in their own way,
Hmm.
who is struggling to understand the situation, and people who are not yet like who may not think to explain or may not think, you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing, and lead up to these mishaps because it's miscommunication as opposed to
Yeah.
physical differences or any of those sorts of differences.
Yeah. Another example, I he didn't use this one, but the example I immediately went to was Parks and Rec, where Leslie Knope doesn't understand that she's too intense.
Hmm.
And Ron Swanson does not understand that he should actually want to do his job. There's
Right,
like he doesn't seem to understand that like hating government work as a government manager is actually not good. And he doesn't
right.
see that. He's like, no, this is how it works. I sit
Yeah,
here and I don't talk to anybody. And this is the way the job should work. Like it's just that, it makes it funny. Um,
yeah.
okay, I'm gonna skip Tool 7. I'm just gonna mention it, but I really enjoyed the chapter, but I'm not going to make you relive it. If somebody else is a history nerd like me, you can go love it. He in chapters, the chapters are very unbalanced. Some of them are like 2 minute reads. Some of them are like, oh crap, this is like an hour. So chapter 7, he talks about archetypes, and he says the goal is like the overarching lesson is find archetypes that people understand
Hmm.
because they're a shortcut. You don't have to get to know the character. You're just like, oh, I get who this character is.
Yeah, yeah.
To explain that, he goes all the way back to pre-Greek drama and moves us all the way to Shakespeare in the
Great,
history of plays. We don't,
great.
yeah, it's like, Kaplan, you're very smart. This is great. Yeah, I didn't need this. But so, and he talks about how like they're using the same kind of 12 characters through like 1,000 years of history, and it allows somebody to sit down at a play and go, "Oh, that's this character." And
Yeah,
yeah. Um, the last one is another big one. It's like the straight and wavy lines. It's the comedic premise. So he's taught us like how to build the character. He's taught us like how to develop the character actions. He's taught us like how to manipulate the user's perspective. This last one is about world building and like how you create the world around the character. And so the way it works is there's a lie that imagines an improbable world that could never happen, but makes us say, I wonder what's going to happen next. So he talks about Spider-Man, and he's like a normal kind of funny kid gets superpowers when he's bit by a radioactive spider. He keeps being a normal kind of funny kid, but now
yeah,
he's got these super, and it's like, what happens next? That's a world building premise that he's like setting up that it inspires more answers. So he's like, when you're building your world building, you take your non-hero character and you say, like, this happens, now what? He's got some rules to this. One is you can't tell an additional lie. You only get one premise. So, like with nerds, our premise is there's a government agency that acts as social workers for ghosts.
yeah,
That's your premise. You can build on the premise, you can make it bigger, but you can't start a second premise.
yeah,
That's the premise you have. The second thing is all the action has to flow from the characters. So the characters play out the premise. So if what happens next is answered by like, well, and this thing happens in the world, that doesn't work. It has to be so the characters go and do this. The characters, rule number 3 is the characters are brought on, like you can add new characters if the theme and the needs of the original characters demand it. But you can't just bring on new characters to bring on new characters. The characters have to fall into the original characters answering the premise. He talks about Groundhog Day in this, and that like every time a new character appears, it's because the premise kind of demands it. But he did mention theme. So for him, theme is a I don't like this definition of theme, but I've heard it used a lot, is a question that exists behind the narrative. So he's like, Romeo and Juliet's theme is like, what is the nature of love?
Or like
Yeah.
a hypothesis.
Yeah. I would say go read the story hypothesis. It's a better thing at building theme. Um, but and then so he talks about how the premise is the engine that drives the story and the theme is the rudder that like directs the characters drive. He says characters have to dictate events and structure, not the other way around. So this is something I talk about with authors all the time of like, hey, don't just world build a world build. If it's not part of the character growth, we don't care. Um, and the last one is other characters' needs have to be as important as the main character's need
Yeah.
to those characters. So River's obsession with the mop has to be as important to River as Ethan's obsession with actually solving the problem, right? Like they have to have equal desire. He said otherwise you get characters that just kind of sit around and don't do much because they're literally just responding to
Yeah.
the other character. Yeah. So, what do you think about the comedic premise?
Well, I think there was a lot there that is applicable to everything, not just comedy. And I think that especially when talking about like character driven stories, like I think that that can be reflected in any style.
Mm,
Um, but I think that it was good that it was in here because I think it's an important approach because a lot of the older stuff was driven towards like that plot drive.
yeah.
And I do think like yeah, you can argue drama has more of that plot drive to it, but it doesn't always. I think it's about the emotion there. I'm trying to like wrap my head around the difference between the two, but I do like this. I like this a lot. I think that that he might be condensing too much into comedy only for me, but
I'm not gonna lie. I got to the
overall,
last chapter. I was like, you could just write a book on premise. I don't know why you're jamming all this.
yeah, like this just honestly this just kind of felt like everything at once.
Yeah.
Um,
He's like, now
yeah,
let me talk about how to build the world, and this is the book in and of itself. I'm like, all right, yeah, it's fine. I have been guilty of that as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because like even the story thing about, you know, it's built on factual plus a lie or something along those lines.
Hmm.
You could argue that that would be a drama as well. I think
Yeah.
that I think this is great. It's a great tool to make a premise of any story.
Yeah. It's not necessarily directly to comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he's right. I think you get one premise per story. I don't think you get multiple premises. You get one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, all right, man. I think we did it. There's a
Yeah.
frequently asked questions section where he talks about like jokes and what jokes are and all that. But I was like, if you liked what we just talked about and you want to go read his frequently asked questions, I think it's a good.
Yeah.
It was good. It just wasn't. I didn't necessarily learn a ton from it. It's just the application of what he's been talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I can't tell if this was just like my opinion coming into this, but I feel like it was affirmed was that like part of the comedy, at least for me, is the absurdity.
Mm,
Um, and the like making strange things familiar and the familiar things strange is another big thing.
mm,
And like when you can do that and you can have those moments where you call things out and when you like that's where the comedy sits. And especially that like straight line curvy line thing is like a really
mhm.
good representation of that where y
Yeah.
it's a normal conversation, but it is absurd
Yeah.
and neither are understanding each other because of miscommunication and all of those pieces working together make for good comedy.
100%. I think my biggest takeaway, I feel like where I'm messing up comedy is when I'm giving my characters too many skills and abilities.
Yeah.
That's where I'm messing, or when their objectives are too aligned. That's where I start to bend thriller instead of comedy. And I actually think this book is really going to help my writing after
Yeah.
reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like those insights. Those are good.
Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts before we put this one to bed?
No.
Okay. This has been a joint with JP.
Insert
JP, where
bubble
can
notes.
everybody find you outside of being a dialogue doctor coach who
Oh,
takes
so I could be
clients?
like in dialogue, doctor.
Yeah. Where can everybody find your fiction?
If you want to head over to shop.jprindfleischix.com, JPRINDFLEISCHIX. com. That's where you can find me and all of the things.
I feel like I need a like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious type song for that
Yeah, yeah.
website.
I
Yeah.
I still think about it to this day. I'm like, should I have done a pen name? And then I'm like, nah.
Dude, dude. I kick myself every day for not doing a pen name. Um,
Um, Elkins seems like an easy name to spell.
for a different reason, for a different reason. Not
Okay,
because, yeah, because I drop a lot of
not because
F-bombs in
of
my books.
ground beef.
Because people read my books and they're like, this is a hard R. I'm like, I know. Anyway, yeah. Um, all right, I'll hit stop and we can talk a little bit more.
Okie dokie.